Hi, good day everyone. I am Diego Medina and I am the Dungeon Master for Dungeons and Dorks. And today I'm here to talk about my process for preparing
Hi, good day everyone.
for
I
a
am
game.
Diego Medina, and I am the Dungeon Master for Dungeons and Dorks. And today
I apologize for that. It looks like there might be a little bit of static going on. Sorry, this is the first time that I do something like this. I'm here to talk about my process of preparation for the games that we have normally on Thursdays. For those of you that may not be familiar, me and my adventurers are currently playing through the Tyranny of Dragons campaign. We're currently playing Hoard, the Dragon Queen. And I figure that there might be people online that maybe have issues with Roll20, and I'm here to explain, what I do in order to prepare. Maybe share some of the tools that I use with the people of the internet, and maybe that will be useful for other people that are interested in both either broadcasting or becoming a dungeon master, which I recommend. It's something very rewarding. There are definitely not enough dungeon masters. We definitely need more. So if you're curious about the game and don't have people to play, then become a dungeon master and play with your friends. So I guess I'll start with my physical setup. I have a suite of physical tools that aid me while I'm playing, and of course a set of software tool that also aid me both preparing and to run the game. I am one that I let the computer do as much as the computer can do in terms of keeping track of initiative, but we'll get to that later. So first I will talk about my physical tools. If you watch our games, you'll see me looking down, not necessarily at my keyboard. And if you see that happening, what's going on is I'm looking at one of my DM folders. So I have two. The first one, which is labeled First Season, actually contains a physical copy of the D&D basic rule set, as well as the Lost Mine of Fandover, which is something that my players and I went through before we jumped into Hoard of the Dragon Queen. So as you can see, I have here the basic rules. I do own a Dungeon Master's Guide, but that's somewhere in my bookshelf where it doesn't get damaged. I believe that the basic rule set is enough for a DM to play, and if there's anything that is not here, I will refer to one of my players. In most cases, it's Konar, because he's a bit of a rules lawyer. So he's definitely out there keeping tabs on me, making sure that all my calls are legal. So my first folder, yes, contains a copy of the basic rules. It also contains, like I mentioned, a copy of the Lost Mine of Fandover. For those of you wondering where I got it, I just bought the set and I went to Kinko's and made a physical copy that I can scratch and annotate. And as you can see, I have like all sorts of tabs, and it's all scratched, and that's the reason why I use it, because I take notes. And if you're a DM, and if you want to become a DM, doing something like this is very useful. It's that way you don't ruin your actual hard copy. Also, something that I do is, and I'll probably put a link to the tool that allows me to do this, is I print out these monster cards. And this is something that I use more for in-person games, because I don't have the help of Roll20. So I print out these, pretty nifty monster cards that allow me to easily have a reference to the monsters that I'm using. Again, something that would-be DM can do. That way you don't have to, keep tabs on your monster manual. These are really great for reference. And then my second folder, which is labeled Season 2, contains a hard copy of Hoard of the Dragon Queen, as well as the Hoard of the Dragon Queen supplement, which contains all the spells and the monsters. So just like I did with the Lost Mines of Phandelver, I went to Kinko's and I created a copy of Hoard of the Dragon Queen. It was about, I think I paid $35 for the copy, but it's well worth it. Again, I don't like ruining my the hard copies with my notes, and yeah, like I said, there's a copy here of the supplement that I use to go back and forward. So this is my physical tool. Actually, I guess I'm missing the most important part. So I have this nifty little roll-up bag here that contains a whole bunch of nifty things too, like blank sheets of paper and pens, as well as my dice and a whole bunch of little miniatures for in-person play. All my players' characters here. This is Grimly's miniature, for example. It's the little dwarf priest that came with the basic edition. I forget what it's called, but there was a basic set of miniatures that came out at the same time as the Lost Mines of Phandelver, and it just so happened that most of my player characters started out with the default characters that came with that campaign, and the miniatures matched those characters. I also have my trusty dice here. For the most part, I use digital dice because that way those of you that are watching are actually able to see my rolls, because I don't have a dice cam, something that I might do in the future when we become more popular. But right now I prefer rolling soft dice. So with that out of the way, now that you guys know what my physical tools are and what I do with them, I'm going to go ahead and talk about my Roll20 set of tools. So right now, those of you that watched the first episode of our broadcast, we are currently in the Raiders camp. There was a bit of an incident. Grimly and Ulbrich were discovered. Essentially, they tried to pull out this little gimmick. They're both dwarf, where they were both stuck on top of one another while wearing the regalia of the Cult of the Dragon, and Ulbrich failed his strength check, and he was discovered, and the entire party got into big trouble. A couple of them were captured. Ulbrich, Grimly, as well as Gru escaped. So I'm anticipating that of course they'll be captured. Gru and Konar and Tanis were captured. So I'm anticipating that Ulbrich and Grimly will maybe try to free them at some point. If not, definitely Gru, because he's a lot more stealthy. So I'm anticipating that there's going to be a lot more interaction happening here at the camp. So something that I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to Roll20, and I want to describe the scene to my characters. Remember that they're currently right now looking for a monk under the name of Leosin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type here in Google the name Leosin, and as you can see, you're going to see a whole bunch of results in the image search. But I was actually looking for this particular image. It's an image that I know exists because I own Hoard of the Dragon Queen, and it's the picture of Leosin being captured and sort of crucified in the middle of the camp. So I want to convey this image to my players. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say image, save as. Let's put it on my desktop for now, and let's call it Leosin captured. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to Roll20, and I am going to create a new handout. So we can say here at pick handout, and let's say Leosin is captured. That's a good name. In players journals, this allows you to select who can see this by default. I'm going to go ahead and enable this already, and then I'm going to go pick my file that I put on my desktop, Leosin capture, and it will be uploaded to Roll20, and then say save changes. And then what happens is, as I am depicting this whole scene of Leosin being captured and crucified, and Tanis and Konar being crucified alongside him, I can just go ahead and click on the hangout and say show to players, and all of my players will see this image. And it's again a good way of visually conveying to my players what's going on. I'm also going to go ahead and right now Roll20 added support for folders. So I'm going to go ahead and move this handout to the handout folder, and you do that by grabbing it by the little burger menu, the 3 lines, and dragging it down to handouts. So again, that's it. And the way that I work is I sort of anticipate what my players are going to do, and I try to prepare for that. Now, a good DM, can only prepare for so much. Players are always going to do unexpected things, and a good DM will roll with the punches. Definitely trying to rail your players into a preset set of events because you only prepare for that. It's a bad thing. It's a bad habit that some DMs have. I am going to actually admit that at some point during my career, I would say, as a DM, I was definitely railroading my players into doing things because I didn't prepare, or maybe because I even over prepared and I just had this wonderful set of things that I want to happen and never happen. So as a DM, that doesn't matter. Just prepare for some things, roll with the punches, and if they do something unexpected, that's okay. It's what makes D&D such a wonderful game to play to begin with. Okay, so that's it. I expect that interaction to occur, and then the next thing is, after they escape, hopefully, they need to go back to the city of Greenest. And I already have a map for Greenest, so I'm just going to show you the map. This is what I'll use when they go back to Greenest. And I use the same mechanism that I use for finding the picture of Leosin. I just googled the map and eventually found a picture that had a decent resolution. Actually, as you see here, I added a whole bunch of effects to the map because Greenest got attacked by the Cult of the Dragon. So something that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all these effect tokens, all the fire, all the smoke, because by now all of that has dissipated. So let me go ahead and remove that again in preparation for my players return to Greenest. Now, another thing that I should mention is you really don't have to have a map for every single scene or every single place your players visit. I personally do a combination of theater of the mind and map building, where I sort of let my players describe. I don't know if for those of you that are not familiar with theater of the mind, it involves, or I guess there's a lack of map in that way of playing. You let the players describe their actions, and they sort of draw this mental map of the scenery around them. It's a very powerful tool under the right circumstances. So I go back and forward, with my players between having a map and having no map. And actually something in between. If you guys see here, this particular map for the Raiders camp doesn't have a grid. So what I do is I sort of let my players describe how far they are from the from a particular person or from a particular enemy, and using the map as a rough reference, I say whether they are within melee range or or within the range of the attack that they're trying to execute. So in this case, I'm not using the grid. In this particular case, I'm not using the grid. It's very rough, and that's something you can do, some sort of halfway in between map and theater of the mind. Okay, so let's go back again. I am expecting them to escape, which is why I went back to my greenest map. And then the next thing is they are going to be asked at some point to go back into the camp, and the camp is going to be empty, and they're going to go into this cave here at the end, because I hinted that there's something special here in this cave. So knowing my adventures, they're probably going to want to explore that, and that is the Hatchery Map. Again, those of you that have the Hoard of the Dragon Queen book, you'll be familiar with this map. I just again went to Google, found a map that had a decent resolution, and uploaded it. And as you can see, I'm actually more somewhat prepared. Something that the Roll20 does, and that I choose to enable for some of my maps, specifically caves and dungeon crawls. It's the Fog of War. So in order to enable that, you upload a picture on a scene, and you can say here under the settings, Fog of War enabled, and then you get this black overlay. And what happens is the players will see all of this as black, so they don't know what the rest of the map looks like, except this little area here that I have highlighted. And I'm actually going to go ahead and reveal a little bit. That way you guys are familiar with what's going on. So you choose a reveal. You can say reveal area. So let's do a polygon reveal. And you just sort of click here, here, and then when you're done, you right click, and boom, that area is revealed. And I choose to do this with caves because it adds to the mysteriousness of a cave. That way the players don't anticipate any places that may be hard to get to because they see it on the map, and they say, oh, let's go to area 12 or whatever, because they actually see the entrance to that area, and that is actually something that happens here. Now the next thing is I'm not going to populate this entire map for you guys because that would take hours, but the very first encounter that takes place in this particular map is here in area 1, where there will be a group of guards that are not necessarily hidden, but they're making their guard here around this area. And for this, I'm going to show you something that is, for me, the most valuable tool that I have in Roll20, and that is the JF parser. There's a guy under the name of Jean-Francois who wrote a parser for stat blocks. So I'll go ahead and again show you how to use that parser. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to say Hoard of the Dragon Queen supplement, and the first link on Google is the link to the Wizards of the Coast supplement. And again, like I think I mentioned already at the beginning, the Hoard of the Dragon Queen supplement has all the items and all the villains and all the monsters. So I am, just to show you, the challenge rating 1-4. So I am going to pick the berserkers to be the guys that are guarding the entrance. The reason for that is my players are currently at level 5. So a simple bandit or guard will pose no challenge. You could also just level the normal guard, but I'm being lazy right now. So again, let's go ahead and scroll down, find the berserker, and we're going to select the stat block for the Berserker. We're going to right click and we're going to say copy. Now I already have Jean-Francois' parser set up, so the only thing that I need to do in order to oh, looks like I have something here out of my monsters folder, is you find a token, and I'll later on I'll teach you how to set it up, but right now again I have it already set up, so I'm going to find a token. Let's type the name Berserker and see what we get, see if we get something we can use. That's not, so let's type the name Barbarians, because Berserkers tend to be barbarians. Let's see what we get. Doesn't look like we're going to be getting anything too useful. Let's just look for everything. And as you guys can see, I have bought a bunch of token packs from Roll20. It's definitely a good investment. This looks like a good token for a barbarian, or a berserker, I should say. So let's go ahead and drag it out here. And whoops, I'm in the wrong layer. So I'm going to go back to the objects and tokens layer, and I'm going to go back to select mode. I dropped in the wrong layer. I need to go back to dynamic lighting. Is that where you are now? EM info. Now map and background. Whoop. Sorry. And select. Here he is. So let's move him actually to the GM layer because I want him to be hidden. And then let's go back to the GM info over layer. So we're gonna move them over here, just away. That way my characters don't know where they are necessarily, even though this whole thing is blacked out. So I'm going to go ahead and click here, and then I'm going to say paste as plain text, and the stat block is going to be pasted in a format that Jean-Francois' parser understands. So then I go back here to the chat, and I'm going to type the command jf-parse. While the token is selected, that is very important. It actually looks like the command didn't go, which might mean that there's something wrong with my environment. Okay, so when that happens, what you do is you go back to Roll20, and if you have a paid account, you're allowed to roll custom scripts. So I'm going to go into my Hoard of the Dragon Queen campaigns. I'm going to say view details, API and scripts, and this is my the monster parser. If you want to set it up, since I'm here, I'm going to explain how to do it. You just say new script, you give it a name, and then you paste the contents, in this case of Jean-Francois' parser. I'll post a link to the GitHub account after I'm done here. But I want to go ahead and say save script, and it's going to say something along the lines of like the message here says, stat block ready, and that's when you know that your parser's it's ready to go. So again, I've already pasted the stat block into this token. With the token selected, you want to go ahead and type again jf parse, and here you go. You see, it filled out all this stuff, and more importantly, you actually have the skills that this guy is able to do. In this case, a great axe. So when you click it, you'll see the rolls automatically take place for the attacks as well as any other skills. I should say, a final step that needs to happen is you need to go back, and now you're going to have a NPC character sheet defined for the Berserker. Something that you want to do, a couple of things that you need to do is, first you're going to click here, and it's already set up to say represent a Berserker with the name Berserker. So then you open the character sheet, you say edit, and then with the token selected, you want to say use selected token. And what that does, actually you'll see the token appear any second, and then you say save changes. And what that will do is, next time you want to place a Berserker, you just grab it from your from the list of NPC characters that you have, and you drop it. And here we go. We have 3 berserkers here. All right. So that's that for the berserker. And I guess hold on a second. I'm receiving a message from my wife. Alright, so another thing that you need to do is, again, I have a party of 4 level 5 characters who are going to be pretty banged up by the time they get here. I just willy-nilly drop 4 characters without knowing necessarily how much of a challenge they're going to pose. So something that I have here, I have an encounter calculator, and this is a tool that I got from, oops, my bad, I didn't mean to do this. Let me open a new tab, an encounter calculator that allows me to more or less tell what the challenge rating is going to be. Something that you need to keep in mind when you are creating an encounter is how banged up, how injured are your characters by the time they make it to that particular particular encounter, and how many more encounters they have. You don't want to put a whole bunch of really hard encounters in a row, especially if they are already injured, because it is likely that your characters are going to die. So as a DM, and you want to keep that in mind when you're designing, especially if you're designing your own world. If you're doing an off-the-shelf adventure, all that design aspect is already taken care of for you. In my case, because my characters are at a higher level, I need to modify the encounters a little bit to keep, to make them challenging for my players. So I'm going to teach you how to use this this encounter calculator, and then I will go ahead and put a link to this too. So again, I have 4 level 5 characters, and I'm going to say calculate, and what this is going to tell me is, it's telling me the experience that for example, medium encounter needs to have for 4 or 5 level characters. So an encounter that awards 2000 XP, it's a medium encounter for a party of 4 level 5s. So then when I say here change to CR, because I'm using CR, so I should say remember the CR of the berserkers, and I put 4, and the berserkers had a CR of 2, so I'm going to say calculate, and it's telling me that 4 berserkers have a or award total of 1800 XP. So what that means is actually there's something else going on. So it's telling me that it's actually going to be a difficult or a hard encounter for a party of 4 level 5s. Let's see what happens if I say level 6. Calculate again. Let's refresh the website. So again, let's do 4 level 6 and then say calculate. So medium is 1200. So for 4 monsters of CR2, yeah, so that's what I anticipated. You need to say calculate. So yeah, apparently that is a hard encounter. I'm going to leave it as is for now, because I am not sure that the berserkers, that 4 berserkers represent a hard encounter. So there might be an issue here with this encounter calculator that maybe I just discovered. So I'm going to go back and actually do the numbers manually. And there's a chapter in the Dungeon Master's Guide that allows you to create encounters. I'm going to go ahead and do that math manually to see what this is, it's actually like. And then I'll post, I guess next time that I do this, I may have another calculator if the results are different from what I'm going to get by doing that manually. So I think that's it for today. I'm going to go ahead and fill out the dungeon with all the encounters that are described in the Hoard of the Dragon's Queen books for this dungeon. And again, the reason that I'm doing this is because I anticipate that my players might actually make it to the entrance of the dungeon next time we play. But who knows, maybe they'll decide to quit completely and go do something else. And again, as a DM, an advice that I give, or I should say I cannot give enough, is roll with the punches. Do not force your players to do something because you're prepared. So with that bit of advice, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you very much, everyone that's watching this or will be watching this in the future. My name is, again, Diego Medina, and I'm the Dungeon Master for Dungeons and Dorks. So, again, thank you, and we'll see each other again on Thursday. Bye-bye.